And whenever anyone asks me, oh my God, you must be so busy. And I'm like, I'm actually not, because I've created a very spacious business and life consciously, because I want to fill it with all the fun things. Because actually, when I fill it with all those fun things and do all those, create that space, I evolve, but also I get to serve at a higher level.
Welcome to the Ronin Mindset podcast. My name is Steve Didier, and this is the podcast where we talk to and have intriguing conversations with digital nomads, expats, global citizens, and traveling entrepreneurs who have extracted themselves from the matrix and are now living free, living a life on their own terms. And today, we are going to have some fun. My guest today is Claire Dore. Claire is a dating and relationship coach. She's a speaker and a writer. She helps individuals embody the truth of who they are so they can attract the intimacy that they desire in every single relationship, including the one with money. Claire is all about authenticity and loves to deconstruct the societal BS and to live life on your own terms, which is what this podcast is all about. She has a huge passion for traveling, and since leaving her 21-year marriage, she has solo traveled and taken many trips around the world, coaching her clients from the beach. And interestingly, she has noticed that every trip she goes on, she attracts a new client. Welcome to the show, Claire. How are you doing?
Thank you, Steve. I was just really enjoying hearing my introduction there. And yeah, I'm excited to be here today.
We're going to have some fun. I know from our little chat we had beforehand that we're going to hit it off, and I know you've got some really good stories. So, let's just jump in. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and kind of what led you to where you're at now.
So essentially, I have been an entrepreneur now for 15 years, in my current coaching business for just over 8 years. And my business has evolved as I've evolved. And there was a really pivotal piece where that really dramatically has kind of shifted into where I am now, which you touched on in my bio, which was when I left my 21-year marriage. And essentially, I went through the start of an awakening. And I was in my marriage and I had the fairy tale, right? I had the fairy tale. I was sold the fairy tale. I created
Right.
the fairy tale, right? That was my conditioning, and I totally recreated that. That's what I thought. That's what I thought you do, right?
Right.
And followed that path. And I'd say I was happy enough, right? Happy enough. And on the outside, everything looked all really rosy and perfect, right? But
Right. You had the
actually
dream.
inside, yeah, it was the dream. Even built our own home, right? Um, and I had sat in that marriage for a while, not feeling really happy. Was starting to kind of invest in myself quite a lot alongside, my business, because that's what I do. So it was like that was a big part of, you know, investing in myself to be able to evolve myself and evolve my clients. And so I was evolving. And then what happened was I went through the start of an awakening in July 21. And basically, that caused me, or gave me rather, the courage and the confidence to step away.
Gotcha.
And that really has changed the whole shape of my business, like dramatically. So that's how I've now positioned myself as this dating and relationship coach, right? I've had 28 years of long term relationships because I'd had a 7 year one before. But then in the last nearly 3 years, I have been dating. and navigating the whole dating world, and really consciously stepping into that. And it's really taught me so much about myself. I have just learned something from every single guy that I've dated. So
I can imagine.
yeah, people like really kind of refer to me as this dating expert. I'm all over the press in the UK with, sharing my perspectives, and on the radio a lot. So that's been the journey, and it's been radical. I have learned that awakening is, you don't just awaken, it's a literally daily, moment by moment process that, your conditioning just comes up to the surface all the time, ready to be released and let go of.
Right. That had to be a difficult experience separating from a 21-year marriage, but it also would seem to me that it would give you a lot of personal insight that you would then be able to pass on to your clients and doing what you do in your coaching business.
Yeah, yeah, completely. Yeah, there was a lot of fear around leaving, of course, right? And fear is control in action, right? It's
Hmm.
really, fear, control, lack, scarcity, worry, like all of that is, yeah, all interconnected. And yeah, that was just keeping me in the marriage. And then it was like, it felt like my soul kind of took over my body on that morning when the words fell out my mouth that I'm leaving.
Okay, so it wasn't really
Like,
a planned thing that you sat down and planned to have this
nope,
discussion, very
not at
impromptu.
all. Not at
Oh,
all. Like, it literally, the words fell out, and once they'd fallen out, that was it. And I feel it was like my intuition had been telling me for a while, leave, leave, leave. And I was just like, oh, oh, that's too uncomfortable. No, not gonna do that.
right,
I've been sold this fairy tale. I've walked down the aisle. My intention was forever. You don't change your mind, kind of mindset, right?
right.
And I think the biggest learning for me was, if you're not happy, you're allowed to change your mind,
That's true.
right?
That's
And
true.
happiness should never ever be compromised. But I was compromising it for everyone else.
Right. That we
Everyone
do
else.
that a lot in every area. So many people I've found, especially when I'm talking to people about possibly breaking free of the matrix and living free and traveling and doing all that, there are so many constraints that people place on themselves, whether it's, in the relationship or whether it's the business, they've been sold this way that life is supposed to be, whether it's in a relationship or your job, work 40 years, get the retirement, and people I think are waking up to the fact that, we grow and evolve as humans and it's okay to change. And if that
Yeah,
involves changing your situation, whether it be work or relationship or whatever, that's okay.
yeah. I think, yeah, the majority of people will follow that system, that path, right? And if that's what they want, that's okay. There's no judgment for that. But I think, you know, I don't fully believe that is what really people really want. But it's like so scary to, walk a different path, and walk a path that is unknown, and you know, nothing that you've ever been taught. So you're literally going, oh, because people like certainty,
Yeah,
right? And there is no certainty when you step away from a divorce, when you go traveling, you don't know what you're going to face.
right. You get out of that comfort zone.
Yes.
But that's really where
Yeah.
all growth occurs anyway, is outside the boundaries of the comfort zone.
Yeah.
So how did you navigate that? And then you also, on piggybacking that, you also started traveling quite a bit. And that was kind of a process that you used to find who your true self was. And after your identity, you
Yeah.
separated your identity from being the married woman, you used travel as a method to kind of find who the real Claire was.
Yeah. And I think, you know, going through this kind of radical awakening, I remember the first 5 months, like literally everything that I had been led to believe for all these years, literally all of it just came up to the surface. And I was just like, it was like clearing, just like this huge clearing of these beliefs that were just not mine. And it was like, go. I don't believe any of this stuff. And so essentially I set myself free, and what that allowed me to do was really feel into what are the things that Claire loves, that light Claire up. And I had never really properly explored traveling before. I'd done a little bit, like a couple of summers in between uni years, but just dipped my toe in and only went to like one country. I realized that I wanted to explore and I wanted to go by myself. Like that was a really big thing. And so I did. I just created it. I chose not to buy a house, and I invested in myself. There was a lot that I felt I needed to like energetically move out of my system. And so, yeah, there were a few people that I chose to work with and support me around that. But also, I chose to invest in exploring some countries that were really calling me.
That's amazing. Now, when you say that you invested in yourself, can you give us a little bit more on what that really entailed?
Yeah, so invested in a one-to-one coach. I mean, I already had a one-to-one coach, but just invested at a higher level. And I also worked with a body worker. So that was doing a huge amount of kind of really deep spiritual releasing work from my body, which just I think people kind of look at my transformation and go, my God, like, wow, that's like super fast. And I think it's because I literally just went and just dove right into, okay, right, this is all coming up. I need to move it. I need to like clear all of this so that I can really embody myself fully and allow myself to follow the desires that I am feeling that I want to do. And it was choosing to travel on my own and leaving my kids, right? That was another layer of letting go of what I'd been led to believe, and what was essentially disempowering myself. I was choosing that, and actually standing in my truth. It was like, now I want to do these things. I don't know what I'm stepping into, but that's okay because that's exciting.
Right. Where was the first country that you went?
Oh, now I'm trying to remember. Um, I'm trying to remember which was the first one. Um, I What's coming to mind, and this may not have been the exact first trip, but I'd had some trips before this, but I'm just not sure if they were outside of the UK. But I decided I wanted to go to Bali. Like, definitely, that was a real soul calling. And
Right.
I thought, okay, I know what I'll do. I'll take my kids to Thailand because they've never been to Asia. I'll take my kids to Thailand. I'll put them on a plane to fly back, and then I'll just jump over to Bali, right? I didn't in theory, I was like, yes, like, oh yes, that feels like a great plan. Oh my gosh. When they were on that flight for those 12 hours, it was the most uncomfortable moment ever. It was like, I've just put all three children on a flight, and oh my God, oh, this is really emotional. But
Ooh,
and I remember talking about it on social media, and someone said to me, you have just given them keys to the world. I have goosebumps
wow.
when I say that. And it's like, oh my gosh, like I've actually empowered myself, but empowered them to go and navigate this whole situation by themselves.
Yes. And that is going to build so much confidence with them. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, um, I think it was not long after that, my daughter flew to Spain on her own at, she would have been 15,
Oh, wow.
right? On her own. Yeah, I
You
know.
empowered
So,
them.
yeah, so that wasn't happening before, and I know, like that happens in families, but that wasn't happening in our family. And
Right.
but yeah, so off I trotted to Bali, um, and felt really great once I knew my kids had landed. It's like, okay, right, that's it. Mum is off. She is off.
How did that feel being in Bali solo
Oh,
on your own?
just Oh, just incredible. It just felt, you know, traveling on my own was just incredibly empowering. I was working it all out myself. I, had to get resourceful at times when, things were showing up that just weren't feeling right, or, strange situations. But I mean, there's something about travel that just really elevates that sense of freedom within. Like I'd already cultivated that energy, but this was just taking it to another level. And I think for me, like really immersing into cultures, I love, I'm all about people. Like my business is all about learning about people and, understanding their stories. And so for me, it was like just that felt so good.
Well, tell us about that. Obviously, you were in Bali by yourself for the first time. How did you handle the logistics then of running a business while in this
Mm.
new country, laptop, lifestyle on the beach, and obviously the time zone there can pose some issues. But how did you manage all of that?
Do you know that was actually really easy? It was really easy. So it's 8 hours difference to the UK. Now, I have clients all over the world anyway, but I think at that particular time, I just had UK clients, and I actually just shared with my clients that I was going away and that I was happy to continue supporting them, but I would support them through Voxer. So I essentially molded my business to what was happening. I could have done Zoom calls, I could have chosen to, but I actually chose to not while I was in Bali. I did in Thailand, but while I was in Bali, I wanted that time, and actually supporting my clients through Voxer. Like I chose when I would go in to support them. So it just like really easily weaved around what I was doing. Yeah.
There is no feeling like that, in my opinion. When you break free and you're out and you're just there and you're in, you're what essentially is paradise. Because I haven't been to Bali yet, but Thailand is one of my favorite spots on this earth, period. And I can only imagine Bali is coming up this next spring. As soon as I get my shoulder surgery done,
Oh, great.
it's
Yeah.
it's high on the list. So
Oh, you'll love it.
yeah, there's nothing that beats that feeling. So you continue to travel and you continue to operate your business. I remember in your bio it said that your business tends to grow every time you travel seriously.
Yes. So, funnily enough, um, it wasn't my first trip to Bali, but my second trip to Bali. I think it was literally day two, right? So I went back to Bali. I came back from Bali and I was like, I'm not done with Bali. I need to go back. And I remember speaking to my ex-husband and saying, look, I really want to go and spend a whole month there. Will you take care of the kids? And he processed that for a while and then he said yes. And so, right, that next day was like, book that ticket. I'm going. And day two of being in Bali, I remember going into CrossFit, went to the CrossFit around the corner from where I was staying. I'd consciously chosen to stay there, like my intuition had led me to that particular, um, like it was like a guest house, I suppose, slash hotel. And round the corner there was a CrossFit. So I was like, okay, gonna go there.
You got to get your
And
workouts in while you're traveling. I
yeah,
I
exactly. And you meet
I
great
don't miss.
people.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
meet people, but I do not miss. I work out whether I'm in traveling. I don't care if I was on a plane for 12 hours that day. I catch a workout when I'm done. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. Especially for me, I meet a lot of people. I've met and made a lot of friends on the road because I do Muay Thai.
Oh
So
yeah.
especially in Thailand, there's so many people from all over the world. And every place that I touch down, if I go to a Muay Thai gym, you get that instant connection with people. I imagine it's the
I
same with
love that.
CrossFit.
Yes. Yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, I'm not surprised that you do that too. So yeah, so off I was going to CrossFit on day two, and I met a woman there. We had a really good connection. I don't know, we probably talked for like maybe 10, 15 minutes. She took my business card. She ended up following me on Instagram. I then went off. I did a silent retreat. Then I went to another island, and then I came back to Ubud. And I remember letting her know I was in Ubud if she wanted to meet for a coffee. And anyway, we couldn't work it out. But I walked in this restaurant, and there she was. Oh no, sorry, I was in there. She walked in 5 minutes later. That's how it happened. And
Wow.
again, it was like, oh yeah, of course we're going to bump into each other. And Ubud's a very busy, city. Like it's quite
Right.
busy and big. And it was like, okay, there are thousands of restaurants in Ubud, but we are, of course, in the same one. And so I have these very synchronistic kind of moments that just happen all the time. And yeah, I'd say it was like a month later, she signed up to be a client. So that's one example. But this has happened over and over again.
That's amazing. But I honestly, I think when people see you living your life from a truly authentic place, that is going to, they're going to pick up on that in your energy and the way that you present yourself,
True.
and people are going to be attracted to that.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't always know what that is, right? But
Right.
yeah, there is an attraction, and it's one of the universal laws. Authenticity is the highest law of attraction.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm,
It's really
yeah.
funny to me how guys are especially like we've got to be in control, like of our business and everything. And I've talked to so many people, and when you can convince them just to loosen that vice grip just a little bit, it's funny because their business usually expands.
Oh, of course.
Of
Because
course.
control is constricting, you know.
Yep.
You're
Yep.
constricting the energy and the opportunities to drop in, right? So
Hmm.
I love, yeah, I hear you.
It's an amazing phenomenon, but that just means that people should get out and travel more, live more. So
Yeah,
you
agreed.
are obviously you're a famous dating and relationship coach, newly single out of a 21-year marriage, traveling the world. I assume you were dating. How was dating? Because I things have changed so radically in the last 21 years. Tell us kind of your experience on that, dating abroad and the new everything that's going on. I don't know if you use dating apps or anything else.
I didn't use apps when I was abroad. I was never set up on one of those that did like a location, you know, I can't remember what they call it now. There's a term, isn't there? It's completely gone from my mind.
Yeah,
But kind of roaming, like a roaming. So that hasn't been a thing for me. So I've just magnetized men in situations, like just synchronicity again. There was one particular incident I remember when I was in Athens, and I mean, I was obviously in a really, really incredibly powerful energy at that particular time. And I love Athens. I love Athens.
yeah,
And I was just like magnetizing these men who just wanting to like pick up the bill and take me for drinks and take me for dinner and parties. And yes, I had a lot of fun, a lot of fun. But yeah, I've never used the apps in abroad, and I don't use apps anyway, not anymore. Um, that's yeah, I have a lot to say about those.
right. Yeah, I've tried them very lightly. I wasn't that impressed with them, but I think you get out of them maybe what you put into them, and I was just kind of like, we'll see, and just doesn't really do much for me. But it's all
Mm.
good. So what? what are your kind of your top strategies for balancing work and adventure while you're on the road, while you're traveling?
So, you know, when you're running your own business, you're a creator, right? So for me, it's about expressing through my writing and, you know, regardless of how many clients I might have in my business, I'm always going to be putting out value and marketing myself. So yeah, I would always, it's about being in the right energy. I would never force myself to write, but I do find if I am in that kind of like flow state and I'm traveling, I'm feel really good about myself. And that always, that's like doing your inner work and getting in alignment. So that tends to be pretty effortless. You don't have the stuff that you're maybe dealing with if you're not traveling, right?
Right.
So you have more time and energy and space for yourself. And so I would just feel into it and just create it around what I'm doing. So I do remember like being in Bali and there were some times, so I went on a silent retreat for 5 days. So that was like
Oh,
total
wow.
digital detox. Um, yeah, most incredible experience. And, I'll have days out and then it's like, well, I'm not going to be, trying to force any writing in, because I'm doing something. And the thing is, what I've learned, and I'm sure you've seen this too, and I've already touched on it, is I don't need to be on social media to attract my clients. Like I'm attracting them through everything I'm doing because the things I'm choosing, yeah, they're really fun. They feel really fun for me. So, of course, then I'm attracting people. So, part of my marketing strategy, wherever I am in the world, is just get out,
Yeah.
do the writing later when you're really feeling it. And yeah, of course, there'll be times when I'm coaching clients and I'll have to be in a hotel room,
Right.
and that's fine. But the Voxer piece that can be done walking down the street or on the beach.
Right. It's a
Mm.
horrible life working from the beach.
You obviously do that a lot.
Horrible. You know what? I try, but it's with the podcast. I was traveling with the podcast, and it was interesting because when I was in Asia, a lot of the people that I was bringing on my podcast were in the U.S. So I remember when I was in
Oh,
Vietnam doing a podcast at 2 o'clock in the morning.
oh my gosh. Yeah.
And well, what's funny is I love these conversations. I love the people I talk to. It just gets me fired up. And so I was like, did a podcast, got done about 2:45, and there was no way I was sleeping. I was just juiced up. So I had to find other stuff to do, kind of a creative outlet before I could come down. It's almost like a high for me when I sit and have a really good conversation with somebody who is really living life. That just it stirs something with me. So,
Mm.
it was never when I was talking to people on the podcast, it's never like work for me. This is like playtime.
Well, that's it, isn't it? When you're an entrepreneur, like you are your brand, like your whole lifestyle is your business is a part of your lifestyle. And yeah, I just find, doing the things you love, you're attracting the people, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
All right. So, what are the first like key steps, especially drawing on your recent personal experience? But what are the first steps that somebody should take when they're looking to transition out of, say, regular life? Whether
Mm.
it's a relationship or a job, and they want to travel, be a little bit more free. That can be kind of intimidating for a lot of people. But what kind of key steps would you recommend that somebody do when they're looking to make that some big changes in their life like that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest questions I ask my clients, right, but the most important question is what do you want? And so often I find they don't know, right? They don't know. And I can have conversations with people in the street and I might pose that question. And I recognize that sometimes don't even realize they have a choice.
Yeah.
right?
That's
Isn't
really
that?
profound, right?
Yeah. They're like, you mean I have a choice? Yes, you
Right.
do, right? You can choose what you want. And so I think to really start exploring that, and it is a big question, right? It really is a big question, but that it really starts there because if you don't know what you want, then you don't know if you want to stay in your relationship and try and deepen that and look at, what would be the step to do that, the first step. But I always think just look at the first step. Don't try and do lots of things. Like, what is the first step? Do that. The next one will reveal itself. About feeling. It's about feeling, not thinking.
Yeah, what are the biggest things that I'm going to 100% agree with you. A lot of people just don't know. And then there's a lot of people who think they know what they want, but it's not truly them. They are wanting what society has imposed on them. They're wanting what maybe their family expects of them or their spouse or whatever. So stripping that away can be really, really difficult and getting down to figuring out what you really want, independent of anybody else's expectations or thoughts about what you, and that can be really, really difficult for a lot of people, I think.
It's so I'm going to disagree that it's difficult because otherwise it will keep people in that place of stuckness
Fair point.
potentially, right? That would disempower them to believe that it's difficult because I think, we can change any situation, and I think it's about being really curious, like whatever actions we are taking, because we are so on autopilot at times. It's like we are not conscious when we are spending money and how that makes us feel. Because most people have a contraction in their body around money, right? And so it's like just being really conscious about everything we're doing, what we're putting in our bodies, but starts with what we're putting in our thoughts, right? What thoughts are we attaching our energy to? So it's just really becoming it's almost like putting yourself under a microscope in a way. I've never ever said that ever before, but that's what's coming to me.
It's true, though. It's true. You have to do a lot of introspection, and really be honest with
Yeah.
yourself and be aware of outside influences, external influences that might be shaping your thought patterns, your belief structures, all those kinds of things. But yes, 100%. I agree with you. It is something that anybody can do. But I think the first step is for people just to be aware, like you said.
And create space. We've been wired to be busy, right? It's actually a trauma response. Like it is such a huge part of people's narrative. It's unreal. And whenever anyone asks me, oh my God, you must be so busy. And I'm like, I'm actually not, because I've created a very spacious business and life consciously because I want to fill it with all the fun things. Because actually, when I fill it with all those fun things and do all those, create that space, I evolve, but also I get to serve at a higher level.
It's life by design
Exactly. Exactly.
instead of
And
default.
then,
Most people are living by default. I think I agree with you. You said it earlier. Most people are just sleepwalking through life.
yeah, sleepwalking. And it's not their fault. It's like, it's all they know right now. But
Right.
unless they stop and pause and, oh, that's it, that's what I was going to say. It's like, actually, I think one of the first steps is to just slow down, create space. Because when you've got space, you start to really feel what's going on. Your emotions might come up that have been suppressed for a while, and you can start to get really curious about yourself. And then you'll start to see, okay, what is it that I really want, right? But without space, we just end up being on this, busy vibe, and we never get to find out who we are.
Right. I like that. Be curious about yourself.
Mm,
I don't, I think that's a really good way to put it. For me, when it comes to that slowing down, especially mentally, I found meditation has been really, really powerful for me just to be able to take time and quiet the mind, reflect, introspect, all those things that you do. Because most people, you're right, you're just in that go, 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 busy, busy. Your mind never really gets a break. You're in this beta state
Yeah.
brainwaves and you're just go, 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 go all the time. And I think it's really important
Mm,
to just slow down, like you said.
mm. Yeah,
I agree.
absolutely. Yeah.
So any final words that you would have for somebody who has kind of taken that step, they've woken themselves up out of this sleepwalking state, they've done some introspection, they know they want to change. What steps, what advice did you have for them?
Do you know, I feel one thing, it's like the most important thing in life and business I've learned is to trust yourself. We are so bombarded with information and external stuff, and we allow that to distract us. And actually, if we can just, again, just be with ourselves, and when we hear our intuition, which is all to do with when we slow down or doing the things we love, generally our intuition will start to really talk to us, and acting on that is the key, right? We can hear our intuition, but if you don't act on it, nothing changes. We stay in the
Right.
same place. But trusting those intuitive nudges and being willing to fuck it up,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yep.
that's how we learn. And I think people are so scared of making a mistake. It's like, yeah, do you know what? Actually, allow yourself to make a mistake,
Yeah.
right?
It's okay. It's okay.
It it's okay because you're going to learn so much more about yourself when you do than if you get it all right. Because there is no wrong and right anyway. There's like, we've been told that story, but you will learn in those moments of, yeah, absolute discomfort who you are.
Right. They're learning experiences. That's all they are. And people are too afraid of failure, like it's a bad thing. It's
Yeah.
funny. I talk to a lot of people, and if you could there's a couple common threads between everybody, but one of the ones that always keeps coming up is what you just referred to, and it's learning to listen to and trust your intuition. So I think that is a really, really good place to leave this. If people could do that, that would be a huge, huge step. Well, Claire, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time and what you shared. I think there's some really, really good stuff there.
Thank you, Steve. I really enjoyed it. It's been fun.
Absolutely amazing.